So let's just jump right in. Have you ever really, truly stopped to think about how you see the world? I don't just mean with your eyes. I mean the entire system in your head that builds your reality from the ground up. We're going to explore this idea that your mind is basically running on an operating system. And the best part, you can actually understand it, you can debug it, and yeah, you might even be able to upgrade it. Okay, I know, it sounds like the beginning of a really weird joke, right? But stick with me here. The answer to this question actually gets to the heart of some really profound truths about how we process the world around us. And by the time we're done, that connection is going to feel totally obvious. All right, first things first, we have to get a handle on the software that we're all born with. Think of it like a factory setting for your brain. Evolution gave us this default mental OS. But, and this is a huge but, it was designed for a world that, frankly, doesn't exist anymore. See, what you perceive as reality, it isn't really reality. It's more like a simplified user interface, kind of like the icons on your computer screen. You don't see the complex code, you just see a little picture that tells you what to do. A rock isn't a complex swirl of quantum particles to your brain. It's an icon that just means hard, can throw, or don't eat. And evolution only had one goal when it designed this UI: correctness. And for evolution, correctness just meant one thing: not dying. You know, as the cognitive scientist Steven Pinker puts it, our minds are these incredibly complex machines. Now, that doesn't take away any of the magic or the richness of being human. It just means we should acknowledge that our thoughts, our feelings, they're all flowing through a system that is, in its own way, programmed. And here's the real kicker. That operating system, the one that was perfectly tuned to help our ancestors avoid saber-toothed tigers, well, we're now trying to run it in a world of Twitter, cryptocurrency, and insane global complexity. It's just not built for this. It's full of bugs, it's prone to glitches, and sometimes it can lead to some really catastrophic errors. So when you realize your software is buggy, what do? You look for an upgrade. And one of the most tempting upgrades out there is what we'll call the logic engine. This is the idea that we can solve our problems through pure, raw, computational power, that we can just think our way to a better reality. This quote really just nails the fundamental flaw of the logic engine. It comes from the world of AI research, but it points to a very, very human tendency, right? We believe we can solve any problem just by throwing more power at it, whether that's computing power, money, or just sheer force of will. In the AI world, they actually have a name for this debate. It's the neats versus the scruffies. The neats are the ones who champion the logic engine. They want everything to be clean, elegant, perfect, mathematically provable. But the scruffies? They're totally different. They're willing to get their hands dirty with the messy, chaotic, patchwork data of the real world. The problem is, when you rely only on that neat, logic-driven OS, you run into some really dangerous bugs. You get what's called grandiosity without feedback. These huge projects or ideas that can't be questioned until it's too late. It creates a kind of informational blindness, where any dissenting opinion is treated like a virus. And that leads to a system that's incredibly fragile, because it just can't adopt to reality. And that brings us to the other option for an upgrade. It's not a system that tries to force its own logic onto the world. No, it's a system that actually embraces the mess. Let's call this one the reality engine. This is the scruffy one. Now, to understand this reality engine, we're not going to look at some giant supercomputer. We're going to look at something much, much, much smaller. That's right. Insects, they are absolute masters of the reality engine. They don't have massive brains or tons of processing power, but they use these incredibly efficient little algorithms to navigate and survive. They live by what's called the parsimony principle, which is just a fancy way of saying, do the absolute most you can with the absolute least you have. Their intelligence is grounded in the real physical world, not in some abstract calculation. And you know, we see another version of this reality engine in a totally different place, the world of nursing. The SPAR framework is this amazing tool they use for clear, fact-based communication when the stakes are literally life and death. It's not about being the smartest person in the room or winning an argument. It's about quickly assessing a messy real-world situation and recommending a concrete action. It's an intelligence built for getting things right. Okay, so we've got our default OS, and we have two possible upgrades, the logic engine and the reality engine. But what happens when that logic engine goes completely haywire? When it doesn't just ignore reality, but it actively tries to rewrite it? Well, that's when you get a system glitch of truly epic proportions. This glitch has a famous name, the reality distortion field. It's a term that was originally coined to describe Steve Jobs' almost supernatural power of persuasion. It's this ability to use charisma and sheer force of will to convince everyone around you that your vision is the only reality, making things that seem impossible feel completely inevitable. I mean, Bill Gates absolutely nailed it when he talked about this. He said Jobs was casting spells. And for anyone caught inside that field, reality itself just felt flexible. It was a kind of superpower that could be used to create world-changing products, for sure. But it had a really dark side. So what's going on here psychologically? The reality distortion field is powered by a leader's deep-seated need to have their own perfect self-image reflected back at them. And this creates an entire organization built around loyalty, not around truth. Disagreement gets stamped out, which leads to what's been called an architecture of silence, a complete dream world. One of Hitler's top architects even described the Nazi regime this way, noting how it created a total disconnect from the grim reality outside, a horrifying extreme example of where this kind of thinking can ultimately lead. Okay, we've looked at the default settings, the flawed upgrades, and the absolute scariest system glitch you can imagine. So the big question is, how do we actually install a better operating system in our own heads? This brings us to the personal solution, the upgrade itself. The answer is in a concept that has been called psychotecture. It's exactly what it sounds like, the idea that you can be the architect of your own psychology. It's not about finding some quick fix, it's about deliberately, consciously reprogramming the software that's running your life every single day. And the best part is, you can start this like right now. The very first step is just to press pause. Use mindfulness to step outside your own thought processes and just watch them, without judgment. Then train in solitude. Seriously, just 5 minutes a day with no phone, no distractions. It strengthens the use it or lose it circuits in your brain for self-regulation. You literally become the sculptor of your own brain. As the writer Tim Urban points out, this is a defining trait of some of the most effective people in the world. Instead of just defending their old beliefs, they treat their own mind like it's a piece of software that needs constant debugging and regular updates. They are active psychopaths. And all of this brings us to a final, really critical choice that we all have to make. Not just as individuals, but as an entire species. It all boils down to what kind of intelligence we choose to value and cultivate. You see, for too long, we've confused intelligence, which is just the raw power and speed of your mental processor, with wisdom. Wisdom is totally different. It's the field of orientation. It's your compass. Intelligence is an adaptation for an individual's survival. Wisdom is an adaptation for a system's sustainability. One is about being clever. The other is about being sound. So, in the end, it all comes down to this. Our default programming, our factory settings, they're just not enough anymore. The universe has plenty of time. If we fail, it'll just try again with something else. The real question is, will we make the choice to consciously upgrade our own operating systems? Do we care enough to finally make that leap from being merely intelligent to becoming truly wise?